I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired.
Rosie O'Donnell's show is a disaster.
After nearly 2 decades of animosity, President Trump and comedian Rosie O'Donnell are still trading shots, with Trump once again threatening to revoke her citizenship.
Happening in the United States is overwhelmingly depressing, unconstitutional, illegal, criminal, and so very sad.
O'Donnell, who was born in New York, moved to Ireland with her 12-year-old after last year's election, citing her frustration with the U.S. political climate. Longtime feud flared again Wednesday night, with Trump posting a distorted photo of O'Donnell on Truth Social, writing, "As previously mentioned, we are giving serious thought to taking away Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. She is not a great American and is, in my opinion, incapable of being so." O'Donnell clapped back on Instagram, writing, "Banishing me again? Logan Roy would be proud. I'm the distraction. Epstein survivors are the reckoning, and your gold lame throne is melting." Trump also floated the idea of revoking her status back in July. That post sparked another response from O'Donnell and drew support from other celebrities, including Ellen DeGeneres, who herself left the U.S. over political division. And in yet another Instagram post, O'Donnell responded, "18 years later, and I still live rent-free in that collapsing brain of yours." The 14th Amendment grants citizenship to anyone born in the United States, and the Supreme Court ruled in 1967 that a president cannot revoke it.
One of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. You called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
I don't understand how he's able to get away with the things he gets away with: breaking the law, the emoluments clause, taking bribes, blackmailing people. He's a criminal con man. And if you grew up in New York, as I did, you knew this your whole life. We watched his planes get repossessed off the runway at LaGuardia. We watched him try to sell steaks and cologne in a fake university, steal money from charities that his family can't even have a charity anymore in New York City, in the New York State, because they had stolen money from kids' cancer charities. There's no way you can look at the facts about this man and believe in him still. You have to have willful blindness.
It all started in 2006 over the Miss USA pageant, when its owner, Donald Trump, publicly forgave the controversial winner. Rosie O'Donnell used her platform on The View to call him out for hypocrisy, and that's when the fuse was lit.
Big press conference to see if he was going to allow Miss USA.
At a teenager, Tara O'Connor, who was Miss Teen USA, she had kissed a girl in the Village, and they took a picture and put it on all the newspapers. And he made her do a press conference where she apologized. And it looked to me like a pimp and a prostitute.
Girl, Tara Connor, how old is she?
21.
21. She went out and she was partying. And so he held a press conference to announce whether or not she was going to retain her crown. He's the moral authority. Left the first wife, had an affair. Left the second wife, had an affair. Had kids both times, but he's the moral compass for 20-year-olds in America.
For Trump, this wasn't a debate. It was a personal attack on his brand, his image, his very identity. His response was swift, brutal, and it set the template for how he'd handle every critic for the next 20 years.
Remind us what it is that she said about him or did to him, because it's almost like, you know, he's a toddler. His frontal lobe is not really fully developed, in my opinion. And so he probably suffers from that imposter syndrome.
It was the money, in my opinion.
Oh.
She was saying how many times he was bankrupted and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
and
he's
that
not a real billionaire.
Well, that's...
Or he wasn't. He wasn't.
She called him out on it, and he freaked out, and he...
I said that on the air, and then I proceeded to list facts, not hyperbole, just facts about who he was and what he did. Bankrupt all these times, money from his father, not a self-made man, can't quantify his riches on Forbes magazine. I just said facts, and you would think that I called his mother a whore. You know, he went insane. And for 20 years, he's been using me as a punching bag.
And it just never stopped. For years, Rosie's name was his go-to insult. But the feud was about to get a massive upgrade.
He believes his lies. I believe he only believes the reality in his world, which is why when someone forces him to face the truth of his own actions and his own essence, he goes crazy because he can't believe that somebody would dare do that.
When Trump won the presidency, the stakes changed entirely. The man Rosie had been calling a snake oil salesman for a decade now had the nuclear codes. Her criticisms grew sharper, more political. She called him a con man, an authoritarian, a criminal who stole from a children's cancer charity. But now the power dynamic was completely different. The response wasn't just an insult on Fox News. It was a threat from the most powerful man on earth. Trump spoke about revoking her citizenship, a statement both absurd and chilling. For Rosie, it culminated in a life-changing decision.
About Rosie. I watch Rosie. Rosie's a mess. She's a mess. But she left our country, which is a good thing, not a bad thing.
O'Donnell moved to Ireland after Trump's 2024 election. Today, she's firing back. Trump has always hated the fact that I see him for who he is, a criminal con man, sexual abusing liar, out to harm our nation to serve himself. This is why I moved to Ireland.
I cannot believe that every Republican congressman or woman, every Republican senator is stupid.
Well, they're not stupid, but they're definitely afraid of him. People in America are afraid of him. They're afraid to stand up to him, against him.
So why look back on this? A bitter 2-decade-long fight between two celebrities. Because it was never just that. Rosie O'Donnell was the canary in the coal mine. She was one of the first public figures to experience the full force of the Trump playbook. The personal attacks to deflect from substantive criticism, the weaponization of loyalty, the complete refusal to ever back down, and the ability to turn every fight into a spectacle.
You stuck out the last Trump presidency. What's different about this one for you that made you realize you're out?
Well, right away was the problem with Project 2025, which the Heritage Foundation put out, and it detailed what they wanted to do. But the biggest reason that it was different than the first time he was in office is because of the Supreme Court giving him ultimate power, the powers of a king or a monarch. And that's not what the United States is all about. He just blatantly goes after brown people. They're tasing people in Walmart. They're taking children apart from their families at schools. What they're doing is un-American, it's illegal, and it's really criminal.
You know, a lot of people did vote for him.
Yes.
Do you accept their right to do that and their opinion of him?
Well, I respect their right to do that. I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet. So I would hope that that would be investigated and that we would see whether or not it was an anomaly or something else that happened on election night in America when Kamala Harris was filling up stadiums with people who supported her, and Donald Trump was not able to do that. So it's curious to me, and as an American and a believer in democracy, I would hope that we would be able to look at all of the reasons why this happened.
The part of you that maybe feels you should be back there and fighting against some of the stuff that you do disagree with?
Yes, a large part of me does that, and that's really what I've done my whole career. I've stood up for civil rights and gay rights and women's rights my whole life, and so it's in me to stand up and protest and fight. But I have an autistic child, and that autistic child should not have to live in a place where our safety is compromised. There's no way you can look at the facts about this man and believe in him still. I think he never had a woman stand up and say publicly exactly who he was. Yeah. He threatened to sue me for 20 years, but he couldn't sue me because I didn't lie about him. I told facts.